This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
At WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast. You're on Ask a Rabbi.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb of Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. And it is a beautiful Friday. It is Chamber of Commerce weather out there, although I think there's a small hint of perhaps some rain, but it's Florida, so it rains now and then.
That is true. That is
as
true.
Opposed to the torrential rains happening on the other end of the country.
It's El Nino.
Yes.
You know, whenever there's an El Nino, I remember my last story there before I moved over here, which was March of '93, was the high surf, heavy rain, winds in Malibu. And I interviewed this one lady. She was 84 years old and had rebuilt her home 4 times.
Wow.
From
That's
the ocean,
persistence.
From the ocean and from the fires in
Wow.
Malibu. She said, "This is heaven." And I'm thinking, oh, okay, what does your insurance company say? Well, she's not insured.
Yeah, she just has to build it herself.
Self-insured. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, El Nino does weird stuff.
You know, and they know about it archaeologically, that it's an ongoing process. It happens every once in a while. When I was in Peru and we went to a couple of the museums, they talked about the different times that there were El Nino and La Nina events. They can see it in the archaeology.
Wow.
So
But
it
that
makes
sense.
It does, because it would destroy things that would be coastal, and it would cause migrations of people, as it does now. As you know, just as Jean and her friend did in Florida. All right. Yeah. One of my favorite hurricane pictures is is a picture of one of my cats looking quite concerned in a box, and the caption I put underneath it is, "Who is Irma and why is she coming to Port Saint Lucie?"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I remember my mother talking about when she was growing up in Hollywood, not Florida, but LA. And there were folks saying, don't build by the Hollywood Hills because those hills will eventually come down. Now, this was old rumors back to the 1800s. Well, guess what?
They're coming down.
They're coming down. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing new. There's nothing new.
No, I'm trying to think of what the piece of real estate is that Bill and I actually drove over one time in California, where the pipes are all above ground because they keep breaking when they're below ground, and the people can't sell their homes there because the land was moving just too much right on the fault.
Would that by the fault?
I think it's by the fault.
Well, yeah.
The ground is just unstable. I want to say we were in...
You were in the desert area.
Deserty.
Or
Long Beach.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Okay. That area.
Yeah, well...
I was visiting McDonnell Douglas.
Oh, okay, well...
My days of aircraft tires.
Which is right near the huge earthquake fault that goes down Interstate 5.
Yeah, and there's an area there where the people were still trying to live, but the roads were, bumpy, and they just every once in a while came in and repaved them because pieces of road would leave.
Yeah.
As the ground moves.
Well, and they had a guy from the Weather Channel the other day at the St. Andreas Fault.
Mm-hmm.
And he is about 6'4". And he, had this video of him stretched out across
the fault.
the fault.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like, whoa. Okay. And this is out in the desert, but I mean,
I'm hoping he had people lay him across it. But...
Oh yeah, it was all staged, but I mean, but still,
Yeah.
you think 6 feet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's you know,
it's definitely going to move.
The big one's gonna happen. It is gonna happen. I thought it did when I was in San Francisco when it happened, but
I understand.
Yeah.
When you feel the earth move under your feet.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And watch a bridge fall and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that gets a little.
That gets your attention.
That's a little dramatic there.
That's a little bit more. When I was a young person, a child living in California, we had a couple of small earthquakes, and I'd feel the earth rumble and the house shake and the pictures come off the wall, and that was quote unquote standard, right? That wasn't any big deal. Yeah, it is.
300 earthquakes a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, three or lower, obviously. But
yeah, but just enough that you notice them, and obviously it's a time to try not to be under things that'll fall.
Which again, I wonder if we bury all these batteries, is Mother Earth going to be upset?
That and fracking.
Well,
fracking has got to be doing something.
Well, there has been a lot of talk about that.
Fracking, I can't imagine the earth being happy about that. And if you think of it as being, whether it's alive or just a responsive system, it's one or the other. Because we know that it tries to reestablish normal for it. Not for us, but for it. We're just a parasite hanging around on it.
Yeah, it's funny because there was a report out of Texas of some earthquakes in the big fracking area there in West Texas, and they'd never had them before.
Yeah.
Okay, can anybody put
2 and 2 together?
2 and 2 together? Yeah.
Of course, as I show my classes, 2 is approximately equal to 3 for large values of 2 and small values of 3. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, folks, it's if you have a number that's 2.43, that's going to round to 2. And if you have another number that's 2.55, it's going to round to 6.
How do you know that's how I do my basketball stats? I do that. It's exactly. Yeah.
And well, because people round, it's rounding error. And the 2 and 3 assumes that you've got whole integers. And the reality is life is not whole integers. We are forever rounding, even on tax returns. They're easier if you round to whole dollars. And the idea is that the times that you round up and the times that you round down even themselves out over time, which is probably true. Certainly for the amount of numbers on a tax return, it's true. You're going to be close enough to 50% that not going to hurt you bad one way or the other. So so 2 is approximately equal to 3. But here's the other part. If you add 2.43 to 2.43, you get 4.86, and that rounds to 5.
Yeah. I get that.
4.86. So, right. So 2 plus 2 does equal 5 in some cases within rounding error. And that's one of the reasons why we used to say that, figures never lie, but liars figure. And the devil is in the details. All of those wonderful cliches, they come from things like that. Because in those small pieces that are less than a number, the world shifts and changes.
Mm-hmm.
And they do matter. And knowing how many decimal places to use in the right context is probably one of the bigger challenges in doing math. So, absolutely. The world is not neatly categorized or any of those things. And as I like to also tell people, if you look at even the picture behind me here in the studio, there's many shades of blue and green, not just one. And I don't care if the artist only used one color of green and one color of blue. By the time they got done, there's many shades up there.
Very shading and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's shading and different amounts of blending. And I'm definitely enjoying that. Those who've been following my Facebook know that
you've done some good stuff.
I'm loving the acrylic pour painting. And I confess that assuming I hopefully pass this exam on Sunday, God willing, inshallah, however you want to say it. It's Hashem, we can say it in however many languages we want to. But if I do make it through, then I'm going to start making some YouTubes of the painting, because it's fun to watch. And you might think that I spend a great deal of time on those. Those are not long paintings to create. The one that I did last night, which was quote unquote leftover paints, we had done a painting project with my students in one of the classes, and we'll probably do that again this term. But when we did it, I had bought a box of, I don't know, 16 colors or something like that. 16 colors, 12 or 16 colors, some large number of colors, so that the students could pick whatever colors they want and use it on their paintings. And then this was the dregs and the not enough to do anything with, but taking up far too much footprint real estate on my tray. So I said, okay, let me pour all of them into one cup and just do what's called a neat pour. And a neat pour is kind of interesting. It's where you take all of the paint that you've poured into this cup and you flip it on, you hold the canvas up to it, and then you turn it over. You put some paint around to allow it to flow easily, but then you open up the cup and it just does whatever it wants to do. And because it was little bits of paint and stuff, the colors are really quite interesting. It's not a palette that I necessarily, I would not have chosen I would not have gone for those colors together, but they worked out, and it's interesting. That's the one I did last night.
So how did the students like the painting?
They enjoyed it tremendously. And I think that's partially because it's a hands-on thing. And like any other project of the type, art can easily be tied into whatever subject is
Well, I was going to say, okay, now wait a minute. This
so we
sound
talk
like
about
psychology to
well,
me.
it is, because it has to do with cognition. If you think about it, there's a great deal of cognition that goes into the process. They have to follow instructions.
Yeah.
They have to, and you have to pay attention. And so people who have difficulty paying attention have to constantly bring themselves back so that they do it right. There's a whole set of instructions to follow. And then there's a technique to master. And the paintings were quite good, were really quite good.
Wait a minute, you have to read instructions?
No, you have to follow instructions.
Oh.
They're verbal. But you could do written instructions if somebody needed them. And then there's the getting into the technique of it. Because you have to, what you do with those paintings is that you roll it around and do things with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
That's very cool.
And then they get to see and some of them were absolutely stunning that the students did. Now, they did a small canvas. They did an 8x10.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did was boards, and I'm not going to do boards again. I'll do the project with students again, but I'm going to go to Michael's and get the big package of the economy real canvases, because it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. I don't like the boards bent with the amount of paint. There's a lot of paint that you use in this style of painting. And yesterday I actually had quite a bit of paint on the canvas. I had to really pour some of it off. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
There's a simple method of figuring out how much you need. And all I needed was 4 ounces, and I think there was like 4.5 ounces left. So that little bit of extra paint makes a huge difference. But on the other hand, it really covered the canvas easily and well.
There you go.
But I lost some of the painting that I would have liked to have been able to hold.
See, but you're the type of industrious person that probably reads the owner's manual in your car.
Oh, no. Not me. Bill? Yes. Me? No.
Really?
Really.
See, that surprises me.
Yeah.
You're so analytical. I thought, okay, that would probably be the first thing she takes home and reads it.
I might look at a couple of the pictures in it, but no, I'm not the manual kind of reader. I'm an intuitive figure it out, and I get annoyed when something's not intuitive. And there's a lot of things in the world that are not intuitive that you do have to do the instructions. So the background on how I got to where I am on the poured paints is that I watched a lot of people who have made YouTubes doing their painting. I've always liked that style of painting. And then I experiment. And one of the other, and I'm forgetting who it is now, one of the other content creators, I guess that's what people are called who make YouTubes these days, said that if you're paying attention, you learn every single time you make a painting, because the paint does something. And you get better and better at the technique. So I'm getting better at knowing how to make cells. Those are the little circles and spots of color in it. And I love those. So I tend to overdo it. And then beyond that, it's just experimenting. People play with different ways of pouring. Every way that you pour changes how the painting looks. So two people might start out. In fact, I did that on the one that I did during the week, not the last painting, but the one before that. I had the same I mixed up a ton of paint, and I did them the same colors, two different ways, and the paintings look entirely different. So
wow.
Yeah. And my husband likes one and doesn't like the other. So yeah. I'll be selling some of these on Etsy.
There you go. So the students, were the guys doing darker colors or were the ladies?
No, it depended.
Mixture.
More depended on personality. So the gothy people tended to do darker colors.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's much more the colors that people surround themselves with are the colors that they used.
Wow. Okay.
So I've got pictures on my phone of all the different paintings. It's really quite amazing. It did a beautiful job. But as I said, we're gonna do it with real canvases instead of the boards. Boards are still real paintings. It's just they're gonna have to work to make them
right.
They'll have to do a little more with it, like bend it back to stretch the paint on them and not crack it. Yeah. I have 3 boards that I made, and I'm looking at them and saying the same thing. So those might go up on Etsy really cheap. But they're pretty.
Yeah.
They're pretty. I like doing leftover paints. So one of the things that I did when the students were doing it, when they finished pouring as much as they wanted of their cup of paint that they made, then I went around and I grabbed the dregs of each cup and poured that onto a canvas and mixed it. And that painting came out quite nice too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get some surprises and things that you think are going to look great together, may not. And other color combinations are just stunning and spectacular. So, and I like stunning and spectacular. Some people like soft and subtle. I'll do some of those. And I'm loving the new way that I'm doing. It's called Dutch pour. That's the one that my husband loves. So I'll be doing some more of the Dutch pours in colors that I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you and your husband like the same colors?
Somewhat. They're not quite the same. So yeah, that has something to do with it. And he likes blues and I like teals more. So if I do a painting that's blue and teal,
yeah,
then yeah, so he would like the blue on the shirt that I'm wearing, and I gravitate toward the teal.
You also have a lot of teal in the shirt that you're wearing. Yeah.
So that's and I have some paintings that are this color. In fact, one of our favorite ones is this color. The one that I did for him is blue, black, and white. And that one is quite pretty. It's the one that people say has a sand dollar in the middle or a flower, whatever you
Ooh,
want to call it.
nice,
Yeah, it's up on
nice.
Facebook. You can find it.
Wow. Okay.
So that one we're going to keep, but I can't keep all the paintings I do. So I'll be selling some.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stand by. Go up. They'll go up on Etsy or I guess Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I'll figure out what I'm doing.
Nice.
And
Good
so
stuff.
this is as good a time as any to mention there's an art festival coming to Stewart, and that's the end of February. And I'm going to go there, and I'm actually going to look and see what other artists are doing in this in this medium and style, and see what ideas I get. If I can figure out what they're doing and how, that's always the fun part. And there's lots of different ways to do it, lots of different tools that are out there. People draw combs through it. They do some incredible designs out of them.
They have, is it Delray? It's down in that area where they seal off the city streets and they paint the streets.
Oh, wow.
And, some phenomenal,
Mhm.
it's chalk paint.
Right, the street artists.
Street artists. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And the joy there is they don't have to store it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They take a picture of it and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking pictures of my paintings, and Facebook keeps asking me would I like to make a reel of different paintings, and I might just do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, reels are fun too, but the real thing I think to store the memory of making these is doing the YouTubes. And I've got to ask Mr. Mevo how he wants to do that. Got to figure that out, or get another little webcam that's just slaved to my laptop and capture it that way, because I do have to edit them. You want to speed up some parts, and
Right.
I don't want a 30-minute video of me preparing and doing the paints. So, yeah.
It's all TikTok style now.
Well,
I hate to say it, but
well, I can see the value in doing the painting part just a little bit faster than you might. And I can do that I use Camtasia as my editor. And Camtasia will speed it up. Yeah. Make it just a little bit, the parts that don't need to be slow. But the actual painting does not take long. As I started to say, the one that I did last night, I actually had somebody called me on the phone while I was finishing up preparing the cup. And I talked to them, flipped the cup, and stretched the paint, and finished the phone call. It's that easy to do.
wow.
And that much fun. Now, we could argue, and it certainly would be valid, that I might have been paying more attention to the painting if I hadn't been on the phone call. But since this was quote unquote leftover paint, it didn't really bother me. I saw the parts on it that I liked and stretched it accordingly. And that's the big key, is to figure out what you like and hold on to it. And to recognize that it's going to continue to move after you put it down to dry. The paint will continue to move. If you have too much paint on the canvas, it will continue to come down the sides until the sides dry enough that it doesn't.
Right.
And that's just the way paint works. And so on the one painting that I really like, there's a piece that I wanted, and it's on the drawing sheet.
Uh-oh. Yep.
So now I have to figure out how to make more of that, of what I liked, and spread it out. And I actually have an idea on that. Of course.
Certainly.
So, and that's the beauty of it. You play, you try it, you see what works, and they're all experiments. And it's a style of painting where the best instruction that I can tell you is that one of the people whose videos I watched said the object is to have the paint have fun. So the painting should give you that kind of joy when it's done. Should look like the paint's not arguing with each other, it's not going to mud. And like flying, here's an analogy you might not have expected. The object is to not mess with it too much.
Yeah, I believe
There's
that.
so many times in life where the key to doing something right is to let it be. Let it do its thing. And that's the key with the paint. You do what you can. You pick the palette. You pick the method of getting it down onto the canvas. And then you follow that method and let the paint be the paint. In the end, you have to let the paint be. And some method, you have an input, but you do not have control.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. So, what's up Sunday?
Sunday is my hopefully passing an exam, please God. I'm taking the NCMHCE, and thanks to technology, I get to do that at home. And they watch you through the computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a proctor. I'm assuming the proctor is probably watching 5, 6, 7, 8 people, because that's what it's a 4-hour test. It's 2 hours and 55 minutes long, with one 15-minute break somewhere in there, and that will be when I run to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I already have that. I think, and I've got to check if you're allowed to have water. I'll ask that during the sign-in. If I'm not, I'll put the water off to the side. And yeah, long test. 50% of the people who take it pass. I hope I'm in that half. We'll find out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only 50?
Only 50% of the people pass. And to realize that you have to have the master's degree to even get into the test. And I don't yet have the master's, but the doctorate is enough to.
Well,
get
I
me
was
in.
going to say.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah. Well, in order to sit for the exam, I supplied my intern number from Florida, which you can't get unless you have the proper schooling, which is kind of interesting. But you also have to send them the transcripts, which they then verify. And Liberty sent the transcript a little bit faster than National did, which is what North Central became. And so on the 19th of December, they sent me a letter saying, no, you can't do this until you finish your master's. Your master's isn't going to be until December, blah, blah. And then the next day I got a letter saying, yep, you meet the requirements because the other transcript came through. So I chuckled. But my hope is that I pass. If I don't, I take it again. It's an expensive test to take, so I don't hope to take it too many times. I know people who have taken it many times. It's like the bar. You take it and you take it and you take it and you study and you study. Half of it's test anxiety, and I have very severe test anxiety. I don't like tests. I hate them. I freak out like a lot of people do. And even knowing that, I'm going to do the things I can. And that's actually why I've been painting a lot this week, has been that's one of the things that I do to relax.
Escapism.
And I was actually having some trouble sleeping from the test anxiety at the beginning of the week, which is why I painted. I didn't sleep well Monday night, so Tuesday I painted. And since then I've been sleeping relatively well. And I'm going to keep this under control. I think that's going to be the key, because you've got to get through the questions in the proper amount of time. And there's a ton of reading.
How did you get through that many doctorates?
With a fear of testing?
Yeah.
You get through.
Wow.
It's not about not being afraid. It's about feel the fear and do it anyway.
Which successful people do.
Yeah. Yeah. Successful people are not unafraid. They just plow through. And so let's look at it. So the rational part of me says, if you don't pass, you take it again. Yes, it's annoying and it's expensive. We're talking hundreds of dollars here. It is expensive. It's a very expensive test. And but there are more expensive ones in the planet, she said. And if I don't pass it, I can take it again. I think it's a month that I have to wait. It's not real long. And I know that eventually I will, because the second time I would take, if I have to take it a second time, it's not going to be as ominous and I'm going to know what it is. And yes, I've done some practice tests. I've been doing bits and pieces of practice tests every minute that I get. I've got 4 apps on my phone that have test questions, and I keep going through them. And sometimes I score 100 and sometimes I don't. I would say my average is probably in the 80% range. And again, it's not a lack of knowledge. It might be forgetting a term for a minute. Sometimes it's just the way the question's worded. Do they mean this? Do they mean that? And there's 2 answers depending on which way they mean something. So sometimes it's vocabulary. So it's not just knowledge. And I recognize that. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the best I can. We did research at Kaiser. My students did research, and they discovered that you do better on a test if you hold a hot beverage or a cold beverage. You don't have to drink it, but just hold it for about 3 or 4 minutes before you go and take the exam. So I'm going to nuke a mug of hot water, if nothing else, or coffee, probably coffee if I get my choice, and hold that and drink it.
Hold it.
It does something to your system to calm you down. And when you're calm, you do better. So I'm going to do those things. I'm going to do the things that I know to do, and I'll do the best I can. And it'll be what it'll be. And yeah, it's not you don't pass this and you never go where you want to go. This is not one of those tests. So that pressure's not there. And we'll find out next week what happens.
So how many people are taking this?
I have no idea. Because it's an ongoing process. Now that it's open there's a company called Pearson who makes textbooks, but they also do the online proctoring. And basically people are taking it whenever they want to along this continuum. So I don't know how and when. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that take it right after they finish the degree, and then a bunch of people who take it as they study over the course of the hours that they put in as an intern. I've got another 1.5 years as an intern, so I've got plenty of time to do this, to have multiple shots at it. I don't plan to do that. I'm hoping that if I don't pass this time, I'll pass next time, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be lucky and pass this time. But I have no illusions that I'm at 100%. I'm not. I'm just not. And I don't know that I ever would be, because of the way the questions are worded and phrased. And the best thing there is to do the practice exam questions so that you get some idea how they phrase it.
So this is essay?
No.
No?
It's all multiple choice.
Oh, multiple choice.
But what they do is they present you with a case study, and that's like 1.5 pages of reading. And then you answer 7 or 8 questions about that case study. So, yeah.
Intriguing.
Yeah, and you don't get the immediate feedback, so that if you go off on a wrong trail, you're on that wrong trail. And one of those things, you miss something. Like when you're nervous, you're going to miss words like accept, not, and
always.
Yeah. All of those words are really important, because they affect things and. So we'll see where it goes, folks. Send me wonderful vibes if you would, please, on Sunday night. I'll be doing this Sunday night. Not answering the phone. The phone will be out of my reach. It has to be. They'll text me if they want me to answer the phone. So they and I will be, they'll be mostly watching me. I'll be rather boring, because I'll be sitting and staring at the screen and reading for the most of it. And, it is my plan to get through the test. The one thing that the practice tests tell me is that I am tending to read faster than most through the questions. So my speed at the questions is good. And I know that from other tests that I take. I'm a fast reader. But that also means that sometimes I miss things like the nots and the accepts.
Mm.
You would think that I would be able to figure that out from the answers, but sometimes you can't. And I teach students to do keyword searches. I'm going to be doing that myself. All the techniques that I know, we'll see if they work. There's nothing I can do.
Wow.
Keep myself as calm as I can. I've got a class Sunday afternoon. I've got a board meeting from the temple, and then I'm going to take the test.
Wow.
So I have a little break between the board meeting and the test.
I still can't believe that whole thing, that you've already got a doctorate and you got to go back and get a master's. That's so stupid.
It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. And it's not worth arguing. You just jump the hoops. It's being compliant. The regulations are not made for the exceptions. And I have to recognize that my going for a doctorate without getting the master's on the way, I use the other master's that I have. It's not in psychology. And yeah, sometimes it's pay me now or pay me later.
Wow. But who would have thought that that could possibly happen down the road?
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Naturally.
Every state, and that's something that I think is beginning to change. There's something called the compact, and that is trying to make the licensing more transferable between states. Counselors are not like doctors where it's a national license, even though this is a national exam, but each state decides what they use.
You should just nationalize it.
They should, but I think that the states that have the stringent requirements, some states have a shortage on counselors, and so they have one set of requirements. Others have an abundance, so they have a different view of it, and they haven't quite gotten together yet. But the compact's the first step in that direction. It's going to happen. Don't know if it'll be in my lifetime, but it'll happen.
Wow. You're amazing.
So you have to do what you have to do.
So after Liberty,
Yeah.
don't tell me you're going back to school.
I have no idea at this stage. Right now, I just want to get through this.
Yeah.
If you stay in school, you don't have to pay back school debt.
Oh my.
So the trick is to find school that you can go to and get something of value for less than you'd pay for the student debt.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in abeyance. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an addiction. I love learning.
Yeah. Yeah, you're fascinating. And learning in so many different areas. That's what amazes me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I'm a genius. I don't know. I do enjoy learning, and I enjoy learning many things. I've always enjoyed math. I've always enjoyed mechanical things, and I love the spiritual and the philosophical. They all do go together. They're all part of life, and I love painting and I love pets. I don't have time for all of the things that I love, so I always have to pick and choose and move from one thing to another to feed the habits.
So when did you discover your love of flying?
Oh, that I always had. And I just don't have the money or the time to do it now, to do it safely.
From the time that you were a kid, though?
Yeah, my father loved flying.
Okay, all right.
He didn't fly. He wanted to. It was one of the things that was on his bucket list.
That was his bucket list, yeah.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to do it. And it's a wonderful feeling when you and the machine leave the ground. And you're in the air, and it's its own thing. You can see it in my eyes that it brings a sparkle, and I love it. it's the views from up above are just gorgeous, and the feel of the air around you and the machine. And I'm going to guess that people who jump out of I don't jump out of perfectly good airplanes, but I imagine that for them the feeling of moving through the air, even though they're descending rapidly, is part of the thrill and the joy.
I've never flown, like
Little
solos,
planes.
little
Oh.
planes, yeah. But gosh, when the Fifth Dimension came to Tucson, which was before you were born, and we did a feature that had to be up and away over the Tucson mountains, daybreak.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What vistas. And we were up, I don't know, 3,000 feet, something like that.
In a hot air balloon.
In a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I've never been
goodness.
in a hot air balloon. It's got to be.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's got to be cool. I've also never been in the blimp.
That too. I've been there, done that on the blimp.
Yeah, well, you of course would be.
Yeah.
Media has first.
Thank you, Goodyear.
First dibs.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Media has first dibs, and customers have second dibs, and employees. Right.
Well, yeah. If all the other fails, the employees get it. Yeah. No, I get that. No, blimps are, and we had a couple amazing blimp pilots for our ESPN coverage up in Newport, Rhode Island, the America's Cup. Oh my gosh, these guys were incredible.
So I have to tell you, my service club, small world. I'm going to go there with that. I was talking to somebody yesterday at refreshments after the service club meeting, and she said, well, her uncle worked maintenance on the blimps in Akron. So she lived not far from where Goodyear is located.
Sure.
Small world. You never know. And here we are in Port Saint Lucie, Florida. So
yeah. Well, and that huge maintenance facility in South Florida. I mean, it's mammoth. Well, obviously, the blimps are mammoth.
Yeah. Blimps are huge. And no, it does not rain inside the blimp hangar in Akron. That's a myth, but it does, condensate does form on the roof because it's not air handled up at the top. There's not air conditioned. And so on a hot, humid day,
oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it forms on the rafters, and it will drip, just as it drips under your car from the air conditioner.
Sure.
Same thing. So the moisture will fall out of the air. That's not rain, that's condensate. So, and yes, the offices that are in there have to protect themselves against that because the water will drip, but it doesn't rain. Yeah. I guess somebody called it that to try to, and then of course the legends start, oh, there are clouds that form. No, there are not clouds that form inside there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing structure. That I have been inside the old dirigible hangar because Goodyear did do things. They sold that. They sold the whole aviation piece off.
Did they?
Yeah, wow. They sold, I think, wheel and brake. And so companies are interesting in how they sell off bits and pieces of themselves. And that's
GE's done that for years.
Yeah, lots of companies have. And you don't know who, you have to really look at things to see who owns what and who owns what piece of what, because sometimes they'll sell off a piece of their name in one location for whatever reason. Companies are interesting creatures.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, they're not people, but they are entities.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're legal entities. Yeah. So, yeah. So, world. Yeah, we come here. It's almost Valentine's Day. It's almost Super Bowl weekend. Lots of things going on in the world. And I'm going to be taking an exam on Sunday. That's where my mind and heart's going to be.
So you're not going to watch. Well, the game will be over, or the game won't have started
by 7 tonight. By 7 Sunday. What time? I don't know.
Well, kickoff's at 6:30.
Okay.
So your test starts at 7?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll catch the replay.
7 to 10?
7 to 11.
11. Whoa.
Probably closer to midnight till I actually finish with all of the prelim and all that stuff. But it is what it is, and we'll just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully technology will work right. If something fails in the system, then you get to do it again.
Oh.
So, well, that's why I'm not
Yeah.
investing one way or the other. It'll go where it goes. I'd like to think I've got a good shot at passing, and all you have to do is pass. But 50% of the people who take it don't. And those statistics are up on the state site.
So what's the pass-fail number?
It varies. It actually fluctuates. It's somewhere around 70%.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
And the other piece to recognize with a test like this is that some of the questions are on the test, and some of the questions that you're going to answer, but you don't know which ones, are what they call test questions. So they're testing them for future tests. They're trying to see the validity and the reliability of the questions. And that's how they come up with new items. So it doesn't make any difference. I get to take them. And I'm sure they're sprinkled throughout and not in these, the computer generates some random order that it gives it to you in. So you do what you do. We'll do it one day at one question at a time, and hopefully enough of them will be right, and we'll go from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And then after I do that, then I have to take the student version of it at Liberty.
Oh,
That's in
God.
March.
Oh,
We'll worry about
no.
that one in March.
Oh, brother. Tests keep rolling along.
Oh, yeah. Lots of
And
testing.
of course, you'll be administering them too.
Yeah.
Very soon.
I can already administer assessments of some types. In fact, my supervisor and I were talking about that. So this is as good a time as any, so I can offer both telehealth to anybody who's in Florida. Can't do it outside of Florida, but I can do it with anybody who's in Florida. I can offer telehealth if you're interested. And also here in Port Saint Lucie, we can do face-to-face. And that's at Change of Mind, with Eric Lever. So yeah, I can offer both of those. You can actually schedule with me at that office. We've got a caller, I think.
And you are located in St. Lucie West?
St. Lucie West, in the offices behind where Publix is, that little cluster of offices off of Bethany.
Okay.
And so I hear I need to put on the headset so I can hear you. Hold on one second, Glenn. All right, Glenn from PSL, thank you. Oh. Thank Yeah, it is pretty sad. Thank you for that, Glenn. So I'm going to just recap that for my Facebook listeners because they don't hear the phone. And so Glenn commented, thank you for complimenting me, by the way, but asking the question about how can people be so ignorant about historical things like that the Romans are the ones who killed Jesus, and how can all of the anti-Semitism, et cetera, go on. And I think anti-Semitism has been around, as you mentioned, for a long time. It's not just 150 years ago. It's much more than that. And I think it's just that people are afraid of something that's different. And it threatens people who aren't sure of themselves. they feel threatened by people who believe something different or see something different. Just as, so I'm going to go into my paintings. You might look at my paintings and you might see a dog, you might see a bird. Those kinds of disagreements are gentle because they don't tie into somebody's identity. But if somebody's afraid of, let's say, burning in hell, which is not a Jewish concept, but it's a Christian concept, and they think that they have to believe a certain way in order for that not to happen, it's going to be scary for somebody to be comfortable believing something different. Does that make sense? Oh, mm, yeah. If I could teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Yeah, we are. Yeah. It it is Glenn. Yeah, so for again recapping it, Glenn is commenting. He relayed an anecdote of his having been close with a Jewish woman and the respecting of the different religions back and forth, and wishing that the world could be much more unified, mentioning that old Coke song. So I'll leave it with this: discrimination is the worst thing that we as human beings do to ourselves because it denies us the people who could help us solve some of the best problems, some of the biggest ones. So, yeah, discrimination is something where people hit themselves, shoot themselves in the foot, and then complain about the pain. So, with that, thank you for calling in, Glenn. Appreciate it. And for all of my listeners, this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb and it's Congregation Eitz Chayim. We have our services Friday nights at 295 Northwest Prima Vista Boulevard at the corner of Irving in St. Andrew's Lutheran Church in their community center, first building when you come off of Irving.
All right. Have a good week.
You too, and hopefully I'll be smiling on the other side.
Good luck on that test. All right.
Thank you.
Ask a Rabbi on WPSL, Port Saint Lucie.